Or is this full-time MMA now?
I love full-time MMA right now.
Full-time MMA?
MMA.
Nothing else?
My life, man, yeah.
Back to the daily grind, and shout out to the full-time patrons. Make sure to hit subscribe if you're new and hit thumbs up if you're not a baby back bagel biting bitch boy, cause you know what time it is. It's full-time
MMA.
Former UFC lightweight champion Eddie Alvarez is one of many fighters and other people in the MMA world that are speaking out against getting rid of early weigh-ins. Eddie Alvarez is actually pleading with Dana White, saying, please don't get rid of the early weigh-ins. If you didn't hear the UFC Unfiltered podcast, UFC President El Jefe Dana White joined, and he said that he's going to be working with the UFC and the commissions to try and get rid of early weigh-ins. Now, on our last video where we discussed that, we saw why they introduced early weigh-ins, and it seemed like for fighter safety. It was an idea introduced by doctors, and it was actually started off on really good terms. Fighters loved it, no one was missing weight. But Dana White said what happens is when you make changes, people start trying to take advantage of those changes. And the farther we got into early weigh-ins, we started seeing a large amount of fighters missing weight in big fights, in main events, in title fights, in regular fights. And also we saw a lot of those fighters winning their fights. So some people started to feel like they were gaming the system, coming in overweight and winning their fights. Out of 8 fights so far this year that fighters have missed weight, 7 of those fighters have won the fight. So missing weight has seen some people feel like that's cheating at this point. People are doing it on purpose. Now I don't know if people are doing it on purpose or if, like Dana White says, they're just kind of trying to game the system, come in as they take as much time as possible so they don't have to cut weight, and just trying to take advantage of the system. So but with that being said, there has been a lot more fighters missing weight now with early weigh-ins than back when we had the original ceremonial weigh-ins. But with that being said, some fighters are still speaking out, like Eddie Alvarez is one of them. I saw Big John McCarthy we'll touch on too, but this is what Eddie Alvarez had to say. Early weigh-ins were the best thing to happen to this sport. You're either accountable or not. Missing weight has nothing to do with the structure. It has to do with the individual. He continued to say proper weight cuts start months in advance, not the week of the fight. We sign contracts way in advance and are told the requirements. If you miss weight, it's your fucking fault. So Eddie Alvarez is a guy, a UFC, a Bellator veteran, a guy that's been fighting around the world, and so his opinion actually, you hold some stock. He's a fighter that's been doing this shit for a while. He's experienced, veteran of the game, former champion, and he loves the early weigh-ins. Now, with that being said, there's other people like Big John McCarthy, but before we get into that, Eddie Alvarez continued even more when this is where he pleaded with Dana White. He said it's not the structure, it's not the hot tubs, not the saunas, not the meal prep guys, not the UFC, not the plane ride. If you miss weight, it's all your fault. Why are we blaming the system? Please help me here, guys. Please, boss man, Dana White, don't get rid of the early weigh-ins. It won't solve a thing. You're punishing the fighters who are accountable and responsible. Don't do it. So it's like the fighters who enjoy these early weigh-ins, and and this is why the doctors introduced them. Clearly, it's more of a health thing, right? It's better for the fighters, but some guys, the bad eggs, are ruining it for everybody. It's like you got people coming in, Mackenzie Dern, 7 pounds overweight, Darren Till missing weight in a title fight, Yoel Romero, but kind of short notice, still a month, but now all other fighters are being punished for it. And Big John McCarthy, who was a longtime referee of the sport and also very knowledgeable of the sport, responded to a fan who asked him about these early weigh-ins. And Big John McCarthy also agrees with Eddie Alvarez. He's saying it's a huge mistake. Why is it you would change things for the small minority of fighters not doing things right, pushing the envelope of what their bodies can lose and penalizing all of the fighters who do it correctly? Does this make sense to you? So it is what it is, man. Big John McCarthy and Eddie Alvarez think that this is a mistake, getting rid of the early weigh-ins and going back to the ceremonial weigh-ins. But as a fan, I look at it, and this is my perspective earlier. I just realized back when we had ceremonial weigh-ins, there were a lot less fighters missing weight. Now we have a lot more fighters missing weight with these early weigh-ins. And Dana White mentioned this too. Some fighters aren't morning people. Some people, when you're doing early weigh-ins, you have to wake up even earlier than that to cut the weight. and then you go to weigh-ins, you know, and it messes up some people's sleep schedules. You know how this is with fighters, you know. So there are some professional fighters, like all of these guys are supposed to be. You're supposed to be a professional. Missing weight is non-professional. There's some guys that get the job done and they still don't miss weight, and it seems like they're going to be getting punished for other people's mistakes. But at the same time, is it fair to the fighter who fights against an overweight opponent? I mean, I don't know. So with that being said, it is what it is. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. I'm out. And as always, thanks for checking out this video. If you want to join the notification gang, make sure you hit subscribe and also hit the bell next to it so you're notified every time I upload a video. And if you want to help this channel reach its full potential, consider hitting the PayPal link in the description or going to patreon.com/fulltimemma and becoming a patron. I'm out.
This is #1 bullshit.